Larry Feldman is probably the most amazing trainer that I've ever experienced in this business. I've been in the car business now for 35 years, and I've seen quite a few trainers. And a lot of them are pretty good. I mean, really, I get something out of all of them that I've seen, really. But Larry is in another class. I really mean that. His training is literally riveting. A little while back, I sat in on his first training that I ever sat in on. It was for new hires. I still remember, I'll never forget it. About 25 people in the room who'd never sold cars before. And he started to do his training. And after 2 hours, I was in the back of the room and I raised my hand meekly and Larry stopped what he was doing and said, yes. And I said, maybe we should take a break. And literally, I'll never forget it. All 25 people turned around, looked at me and went, well, okay. And they turned back to Larry. And Larry looked at me and go, okay. And he kept going for another 2 hours.
Hello, this is Ian Nethercott of the famous Auto Hub show, and this is the sixth season of the main show and the second season of this one-on-one show. And we have Steve here to my left, I guess, on virtually. And Steve's going to talk a little bit about what he does and what he can do for you. But more importantly, we always start on this show with the story of why automotive, because we all know that some people drop into this accidentally. Some people like me have actually, their family's been in the business a long time. But Steve, why automotive? Like, how did you get here? What's the
Yeah,
story?
a great question. So, I mean, it's core to who I am is cars, and so my first memory as a human was drawing a pickup truck at age 2, and that kind of put me on a quest for really two things: was creativity and automotive. And it took a while to come full circle into the automotive industry, but I had always been a car guy, car enthusiast. And then I got into marketing and started working in an agency downtown in Vancouver. And then just through a lot of ways and circles and roundabout ways, I found my way into the automotive industry about 8 years ago
Oh,
and have fallen in love ever since. It's really because I guess to bring really my passion for cars and my passion for marketing and business and bringing them all together.
oh, okay, great. Yeah, my aunt and uncle, my aunt always used to say, you're either a lifer in the car business or you're a transitory employee. So I've been in the car business myself for 25 years, and my family's been in it for about a little over 100 now. My grandfather, my uncle, my dad worked in it before he got in the medical field. My cousin worked in the business. But I actually got into it when I moved to Vancouver, I think in around 2099, something like that. So I've been in it for about 25 years, but I was always a fan of cars. I just thought the bar was set pretty low in automotive. So I was like, well, I can do better than this.
Yeah, my
So,
my
well,
passion actually started with designing cars. And so when I was like, I don't in high school, I actually like built a car out of wood and metal and like was fully like thought I was going to be a car designer. And then sadly, there's only really one program in North America called Art Center in
yep.
LA. And so I kind of sometimes think back like I should have just rolled the dice and done that, but you never know, right?
Well, I went to school. My undergraduate degree is in industrial design, and actually, one of my profs actually was a car designer. He was a renderer of car design for General Motors in the early days. He actually went to Art Center College of Design in California, but the reason he didn't last in automotive design was at that point working for General Motors, they were paranoid about who knew about what the new car was going to look like. So what they did is they broke up that design to designers who would design different pieces of the car, and then they would put the design together and then they'd have a car. So his job was to design bumpers. So he did bumper design for a couple of years and it burned him out. He couldn't do it. But he was a
Yeah.
hell of a renderer. He could do amazing stuff with watercolors and markers because he learned how to do that. Because I went to school, my undergraduate degree was in industrial design. I got it from a college in Philadelphia called University of the Arts. But yeah, I mean, the Art Center, I think, is still one of the global centers for car design. I don't know how many others there are. There's
Yeah,
one
I
in,
think it's really the one. If you live in North America, that's the only one really that I'm aware of. Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's hard to get in. I don't know. I didn't never got there, but it's definitely always been a car person.
Now,
So,
now you just need $1 billion and you can start your own car.
well, I hear Fisker's trying again. They had three strikes. Yeah, last NADA, they were still trying to sell that thing. Mr. Fisker was there. There's all the fanboys around him and fangirls, I guess. And I was like, yeah. And his last one didn't do well. And actually, there's podcast up there for people that are DeLorean fans. A buddy of mine's podcast, he did an interview with the daughter of DeLorean. So if you're looking for some interesting listening, being that that story's a little nuts. But I guess we haven't seen the Bricklin come back either. So, we'll see what happens there. So, you got into the car business, you had a passion for cars, you wanted to design them, but you're like, I don't know if I want to go to California, understandably. So when you got in the car business, what took you from there to where you are now?
Yeah. So when I started, I worked as a marketing director for a large auto group. And when
Yeah.
I started there, it was just me in a room and it was just figure it out. And so it gave me a clean slate to really develop a system, develop teams, and start to pull apart all of the curtains really.
Yeah.
And because of the scale of the organization and just the way they're structured for a lot of anonymity and a lot of just being, if you get it done, just go and do it. I was able to really affect all areas, not just the marketing side, but the strategy side of the business, understanding how to roll out new dealerships, how to really transform them as well. And so it gave me a more than just the advertising side of things that I had started with in the past, but really the full dealership perspective, which then gave me that confidence to start my own agency because having tackled dozens of dealerships internally and being able to do really anything on any side of it and getting really great results, it just felt like it was a time to partner, to branch out and really work with lots of dealers. That's where we are today.
Fantastic. So if you're, a car dealer, and I've worked with a few, I've also worked with the OEM, and I know they spend money on marketing, sometimes well, sometimes not well. What are the biggest mistakes that you feel a dealership makes in the marketing side that maybe they're not aware of, or that they could fix quickly and get more results? Like, what do you think?
So it's actually pretty consistent. I have a tool that lets me look at any ads that businesses are running, whether on Facebook, Google, and all that. And so I audit dealers all the time, and I see the same mistakes over and over and over and over again. From an advertising point of view, it's creative, just no creative, lack of creative. Basically running OEM ads, running generic ads, and getting
Yeah.
generic results. It's over indexing and overspending on Google search because your agency really only knows how to do that. And so what you end up doing is only focusing all your budget on the very end of the funnel of the sales funnel, and forgetting about all the other people that are in that funnel, whether they're on the awareness phase or the consideration phase or whatnot, and building a whole strategy to actually tackle all of that, rather than just putting all my money at AdWords because I think that that's all I can do. And so what you end up doing is you compete with everybody in the same small pool for the same small pool of people in the same channel. So you're just overspending, and dealers need to get out of that. And also thinking about how customers actually shop today. And so a big part of what we do is actually in the psychology of shopping and understanding buyer behavior and developing systems that remove friction, because so many times there's friction applied to the whole sales process, whether it's the ad has friction, whether it's where it takes it to, and more importantly, it's the sales follow-up process that quite often has a lot of friction. And so we're not just an advertising agency that runs ads. We're truly a marketing partner for dealerships that want to grow. And so we'll help you with your advertising, but we also really work on your conversions and taking ownership for your marketing so that it actually makes a difference. And so working with sales teams to uncover all the gaps in the online sales process and then actually remedying it, making offers for you, making them that are strategic, that are actionable, and owning them. Because a lot of times I think what happens is the agency just runs ads for the dealer supplies them with the offers and the ads, they get a report back, and then they blame the client for a bad month, and they say, well, you gave us the ads, you gave us the offer. We flip it around and we take ownership from day one and say, we want to own your marketing and be your partner, and we want to get more sales, and everything drives to sales. And so I don't run an ad because we want an ad because it's got the highest ROI to make a sale.
So what about companies like Amazon who are now getting into the car business? I know they're going to have a big booth at NADA next week in Vegas. Not in Vegas, in New Orleans this year, sorry. And also companies that do digital retail and companies that are changing websites and companies that think really it's about the amount of leads versus the process. Like what, in addition to advertising, what have you helped dealers with in terms of optimizing those other pieces of that customer journey, for example?
Exactly. And so we have multiple verticals that we address. So one of them is digital retailing. So it's not just your website, it's how you merchandise on your website, how all of the digital touch points where you're in market, how are you being represented? And is it actually, again, removing the friction for customers to move forward? With things like Amazon, it's going to take a while because I think with COVID, everybody thought people would just buy cars online. It proved to be not true. So if Amazon is going to try to make that more of an actionable thing,
Yeah.
then that will affect over time. Because let's be honest, Amazon does change behavior over time. It just takes maybe years for it to happen. But I guess that's the big gray area is are we ready for online car sales, like actually online car sales, or do we just still think that we are?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I remember last year at NADA, Amazon wasn't at the NADA event live. They were at a hotel offsite, and they were making deals with the first Hyundai dealers in the U.S. as they went live this year, or at the end of last year. And the thing that was interesting wasn't that fact. It was the fact that you look at groups like, say, Lucid or Rivian or Tesla, and then of course there's Tekion that is the former IT guy from Tesla. But to your point, and we've done shows on digital retail for many years now, let's just say that number is 20% of people that prefer to look at it that way, and it's a multi-stage process. The big question isn't the technology that you can implement that does some of that, whether it be Amazon or eBay Motors or whatever, Carvana or Clutch in Canada is another sort of wannabe Carvana. At the end of the day, you need to be able to handle how all the people want to buy a car or buy parts or service a car. So I think, and this is something that we've discussed on the show many times, dealers tend to buy too much technology, especially these days with AI, to replace what is a broken process. So if I've got a dealer who say is spending, let's just say it's $10,000 on advertising, and they're getting, I don't know, 1 to 3% of leads tends to be kind of average, but maybe as many as 4%. What can they do to not only optimize their ad spend, but enhance their process and not spend money in the wrong areas? Like how do you recommend they start that process, being that
Yeah, so I would always start with an audit. I like budget audits the best, is actually to break down all of your marketing expenses because sometimes we don't do a good enough job of actually putting it all together and determining like what is your cost per lead, what's your cost per acquisition, what's your contact rate, what's your booking rate, what's your closing rate on all of your leads. And because then you can start to determine what are my channels that are providing really good ROI and maybe some are really bad. Sometimes when we do this for clients, we notice like all of a sudden, like, wow, Auto Trader is like $800 a lead when you actually break it down. But like nobody always, sometimes they don't do that because they're not looking at it at that perspective. And so, because then what we want to do is just reallocate budget to get better ROI. And I think marketing is the same as, it's a similar to like buying marketing is very similar to buying stock, to day trading stocks. You're day trading attention. And so we can put money into any platform and we'll get some results, but we want to get the most results. And so we want to pick and choose what's performing the best. And so that's where first determining what's not working, reallocating that, setting some targets, and then working off of that is the first step. And that's just the budget side of things. Then you actually go through the entire chain of your marketing and your dealership, really online and in store. One thing we do is we'll try to buy cars online at our clients and just see like firsthand, like what's your response times, what are your responses like, where is all of the gaps and the friction and the breakdowns. And because a lot of times it'll be like, well, they respond in 14 minutes to a lead or 28 minutes, and the response is just a question that makes it more complicated. And then they're surprised, well, why are these leads not converting? And so fixing those things, like we have a really tailored proprietary sales follow-up process that you can plug that in, and now all of a sudden you're at 80-85% contact rate. That in itself, will impact all of the bottom line. So that's how we like to look at it, is all the pieces, because I don't like to throw around words like 10x growth, because I mean Grant Cardone can do that for me, but
100x or 800x.
And I know everybody wants that crazy number, but truthfully, and I've seen it, you can get that 10x by 1.5 out of this and 2 out of this and 1% here or 1% there. That can add up to 10 times, right? But you just have to fix each little thing. And to your other point about adding new tech, so many times they think the way to overcome a challenge is to add something on. And the truth is to actually go back to the basics and fix what's broken, because there's no point to add anything if you've got anything broken in your process, because it's just going to amplify it. And if it actually, the thing you do is working, it's just going to break the other thing. And so it's really starting with basics, and don't run until you can walk well, and make sure you get all of that right.
And what about, the cost for your services, and how does someone get started? And there will be information below in the description. Go ahead.
Yeah, so a lot of we try to pack on so much value that it becomes almost impossible not to use us. And so we typically had there's a couple of ways to engage with us. One is just to run some ads for you, and it becomes comparable to your existing agency. You just get way better results. But what we also offer is a full service package where we actually become your in-house marketing department. And so you get the power of a 10-person, $60,000-$70,000 a month agency, but you pay just basically what you're already paying as your current agencies. Only you get all of these skills and all of this bandwidth. And what it allows you to do is actually accomplish all of those things that businesses want, but they've never been able to because they don't have the skills and the resources. So we literally become your marketing department. So for example, one of my clients, I was just before this call planning their 60th anniversary party, or not party, their 60th anniversary brand launch. So we're doing a whole brand launch for them. Also, we're implementing an AI sales tool into them. So all of these additional services that we can then drive for them so that they can just focus on selling cars, and we focus on all the marketing. And then on top of that, we make world-class creative, and we add the strategy to kind of match that. So businesses get branding, they get strategy, and all of the things that a typical organization would invest in that dealers don't.
Right. So what about building that marketing around different departments like parts or service or retention or lease offers or body shop is another thing some dealers are into, or in a group where they have multiple properties. I mean, to sort of be consistent across the board. I mean,
exactly. And that's why we start with a strategy first and branding. And so in my past life, I used to, in the other agency world, we did big $100,000, $500,000 branding projects. And so I've kind of cut my teeth on branding. And that's kind of my expertise 20 years ago. And so because of that, I'm able to offer that and include that in what we do without adding cost onto it, because rather than trying to charge clients $30,000 for a branding exercise, which I know they don't even understand the value of, we try to actually integrate brand strategy into what we do, everything we do. So when we make creative, we make ads, or webs, anything for that matter, we're building equity in the brand. So rather than buying clicks and you just buy a click and you get the click and that's it, we're actually building long-term value in the brand. So the brand then becomes recognized as well. And so that's, I think, something that's missing with dealerships is they don't invest anything in their brand. They don't even know that they have a brand because a lot of times they think it's their OEM brand. But what we want to do is differentiate our dealers from everybody else. Because at the end of the day, we're not making ads to sell a OEM car. We're trying to make an ad to sell a dealership versus another dealership.
Right. So obviously working with clients in the Canadian market and the US market, do you work with any other international markets at all?
No, not right now. I mean, I think we're just really focused on providing the best service to our clients, and so customer service is really one of our number one pillars of just we're able to be really, really responsive, really fast, really nimble, and able to execute like instantly. So, for example, on Friday, all of the EV programs got rejigged, and so by noon, we had new videos in market for our clients. Then on Monday or Saturday, when they were taken down, we had new ads in market that same day as well. And so we're able to really be fast and nimble. And that's why we're not looking to grow internationally right now. We're trying to really own our market.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for taking the time and going through it. Thanks for obviously everything you do in the car business, and Auto Show is all about making the business better every single day. What's your projection for 2025 as we deal with a lot of change in the, I guess, EV political landscape, but also some uncertainty there with manufacturers? And what do you think is going to happen in 2025?
Yeah, it's an exciting question. I think it's going to be a really interesting year, and I think there's going to be a lot of wins and losses. I see there's two main things. If I was to say there's two predictions for 2025, one, it's going in Canada, the EV market is going to be very uncertain. We all know that, I think. Well, we don't all know that, but I think the writing's on the wall with the changing of governments, with probably a mandate to remove carbon taxes. I can't imagine that there's going to be, first off, more incentives on EVs. And not only that, it's going to drive the gas prices down, which will increase the demand, I think, on gas cars. So and then you take away the rebates, it's going to be a hard decision, I think, for customers to consider EVs right away. It's hard to know the value of an EV, to be honest, because I think Tesla's they're inflated by the rebates. So
the resale value is the worst of any vehicle. Tesla. So we'll see what happens, but 70% depreciation is not a good look.
I know, and I mean, look at your cell phone, right? How many old cell phones do you have in your closet? What are they worth?
Yeah, nothing.
Exactly, right? And so is that the trend that we're going to see for these cellular automotive vehicles that are basically computers, as opposed to the ICE cars that have maybe some residual built into them? So I don't know. I think the EV market is going to be uncertain for a while until customers have the confidence to even buy something at scale. Right now, some people are going to buy, but the urgency is going to be gone. That's for sure. And the other thing that I think is going to be even more change and disruptive is going to be AI. I know we say AI has been said forever, not ever, for years. But in the past 3 or 4 years, I've been living with AI very closely. I consider myself one of the pioneers in the space in my market, because I've been doing it with so many different applications. And I've been talking to a lot of people for a long time about it. And dealers, for years, their heads have been in the sand for years. And in the past 3 months, I swear I've never seen more heads pop out of the sand. And what I'm noticing is some of the auto groups now, some of the big ones in BC are starting to implement AI from a lead follow-up, like a lead handling process. Yep. And they're going to see all of a sudden that the results and the efficiencies are going to make sense, because I work with that part of the process every day, right? With handing leads over to humans and having them take a swing and a miss and then just let the ball fall. And now if somebody will be picking up the ball and trying to re-engage it over and over again, it's going to seem like, wow, where has this been? And so I'm really excited for that, because it's going to allow dealers to just, I think, get way, way, way more value out of their ads, and also to optimize differently. Right now, everything that we do optimizes on quality over quantity because sales struggles. And so dealers would much rather pay $50, $60, $100 a lead over $5 a lead because they can't handle $5 leads because their team can't. So
Yes.
all of a sudden we can bolt on AI and get $5 leads and turning them into $100 leads with just technology. And so now all of a sudden some dealers could 20x their amount of leads just by AI. And so that's where dealers are going to be able to like cut BDC departments like off of the expense department sheet. They're going to eventually, not this year, but I think in a year or two, restructure their sales plans and packages to have an AI responder and a couple of closers and a couple of delivery people. And that can be the new role for a sales team. And then get rid of GSM or like you'll have GMs or a GSM, but you might not have your SMs as much or even need them. And think about the pay cuts, like the efficiencies that are going to go in with that. Then you're going to add a year later, you're going to get accounting in there. Now your accounting is going to be on AI. And then all of a sudden, you're going to have these really small, efficient auto groups that are going to be like,
Yep.
and that's where I think we're really heading quick because at the end of the day, with capitalism, money makes decisions. And if somebody says to you, I can cut your this by 30,000 a month, 20,000 a month, you're going to try it for a month probably. And it's
Yep.
going to, and it works, then you're going to continue, right?
Yeah, I mean, we did a show called the AIO show in 2024, which was quite interesting in this topic, and I'm very confident that's going to be the low-fat tech product again this year at AD. There'll be a lot of AI-enabled technology, but I do think AI has its pros and cons. But I think the main thing, having played around with it now for many years, is you've got to look at your process first, make sure it's not broken, and then automate what makes sense. So I think where the mistakes happen is when companies, whether they be as large as, you know, Techion or CDK or Reynolds and Reynolds or OEMs even. And I had an experience recently with my cell phone provider where they're emailing me, but their teams don't understand why things aren't happening because stuff's broken behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you've got to make sure that when you create this better widget or this better mousetrap, and even if you automate some of that mousetrap, that everything still works. That's where I think you can get into a lot of trouble. If you do a lot of email stuff or texting an email or even automation on your website or through your sales or service process, you got to make sure that the customer doesn't go from not being reached out to at all to being reached out to in the wrong way, which
100%.
I think is where the devil's in the details. But thanks very much for taking the time today. There will be more information in the description of how to get in touch with Steve. Obviously, he can do an audit for you and help you, I don't know, X your business at some point to some degree, and also hopefully save you some money at the same time. Have yourself a great day. If you're going to be at NADA, I'll be at the Velo booth number 835. If you haven't booked an appointment already, just stop by. I'll do my best to work you in for an ambush interview at the show. And if you're not going to be at NADA live, stay tuned for my interviews from the show. There'll probably be 20 to 30 at least. So you'll get a flavor of the show. And have yourself a great weekend. Happy Friday. And thanks for taking the time.